Well, good morning, everyone. Let's see if I can find my deal here. There we go. All right. Okay. Well, I guess we're ready to go here. Good morning again. I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune for the 28th day of March, 2019. Well, we're almost at the end of the month. Mercury goes direct today, or maybe, well, it probably already has. So that nightmare's over with. I don't know if any of you are affected by Mercury retrogrades. I'm really, I don't know. I think probably for me, sometimes I've noticed the electronics going wacky now and then, but for the most part, I think for me it's miscommunication. I saw a lot of people jumping the gun about different things and not really. I think as humans we have a hard time listening anyway, and so I think that for some people they just don't hear everything in a sentence. I had a retired fourth grade teacher tell me one time, and and here's the thing. I studied psychology in college. I have a bachelor's in psychology, and I did not learn this here, okay? And so this just totally explained my husband to me completely. But she said, she taught third and fourth grade, and she said, boys, listen to the middle. That's all they hear. They don't hear the beginning. They don't hear the end. It's like it takes them a bit to like turn their attention to the individual speaking. And so they get a little bit of it, and then they get bored and they leave. Their mind wanders. And so they get the middle. And that's, she says, when I learned to, she says, when I figured out that that was what was really going on, because it seemed like all they heard was just the middle part of what I would always say. And so she started paying attention. And apparently, she says, the difference between boys and girls is boys listen to the middle and girls listen to the whole thing. Explained my husband completely. I realized that it takes him a while to get there, and I have to go quick or I lose him. You're welcome. I just may have explained every woman's husband out there. I didn't learn this in psychology. Nobody ever said, yeah, you know, if it's a communication issue, it could be that if it's a guy, he just listens to the middle. I just thought it was fascinating, though. I thought, my God. I started listening to other men that I knew, and just sort of observing them and to hear how they responded to things. And I really think that it must be true. I don't know. I just saw an awful lot of consistency after she told me that. So. In any event, thank you so much for stopping by today. If it's your first time, welcome. If you've been here before, thanks so much for coming back. I do this 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday. And then I take the weekends off. I do a 3-day weekend where I either catch up on stuff with my husband around here at the house, or we do shopping, or sometimes I write. I always have 2 books going. So I have a novel that I've been working on, and then I just published one book, Witch Notes. It's a small, just a small book of correspondences that I find helpful. So, you know, I have other books of correspondences that are really big, like there's the Complete Magician's Tables, which if you don't have that, I highly recommend it. I mean, it has everything in it. And you can also find other grimoires online, you know, that you can buy that are ebooks or what have you, or you can just buy them, that other witches have published. They've published their own grimoires, and so you can get a lot of correspondences that way. But you know, some of them don't really they don't really resonate with me. I'm a solitary witch, so I don't really pay attention to a lot of stuff. I have the things that I have done all my life and thought all my life, and that's kind of the stuff that, you know, and from there I've explored and found other things too. But I've never been somebody who is really too big on tradition because I've always been solitary. But in them, see, if you buy someone else's, you know, published grimoire, then you get an idea of, you know, how other traditions see things. their history, their lore, all of that you can find in there. And it's really interesting. I highly recommend getting those as well. But anyway, I've got another one that I'm doing, kind of a manual. And I don't know. I just started thinking about it. I started jotting some ideas down, and I have most of the sections I think for it planned out, and some of the stuff written. But while I'm doing the other one, and so anyway, I do that on the weekends usually, and then often I'll do it at night, which is why I don't get my lunar transits done. So, although they're up on the blog, so you can check that out over there at imsteppingaside.com. The blog's called Stepping Aside. I wish I could have just gotten that, but it wasn't available. So I couldn't get that URL. I had to play around with it, and they had I'm Stepping Aside was available, so I took that. And really, I mean, that's exactly what it is. You get to be a crone. You get to that point in your life, and you're just done. You don't suffer fools. You just don't really, I don't know if it's the menopause. I mean, maybe, but you really just get to the point where you've just had enough, and you really just don't want to deal with anything more. And so rather than dealing with chaos, I step aside it. I don't know. The things I actually have to deal with, I will. The rest of it, though, I don't know. What's the point? Anyhow, today is a 1 day numerologically. So an energy of new beginnings. 28 reduces to 10, and that reduces to 1. And so today's about numerology. Today's about new beginnings. Yesterday was about completion. So you can kind of see the progression in numerology sometimes. If you like that sort of thing, I do. So I was talking to my husband on the walk this morning. We went on our walk this morning. Yesterday it was raining, so today's supposed to rain too, but we got out before we see the clouds coming in, so it's going to be here another hour or two. I'll bet you it's going to start raining again. But right now it was just gorgeous out, and so we went out and did our 4-mile walk. And I was telling him that I mentioned yesterday about the number 13. I always count 13 cards, take the 13th card when I draw the cards for this reading. And I decided, I was thinking in my head my phone number, and I was thinking, oh my God, does that go down to 13? Does that reduce to 13 too? Well, it kind of does, only I got my phone out and I used my calculator app on there, and it actually reduces to 31, so the opposite of 13, but both reduce to 4. So numerologically, my phone number is even kind of a 13 backwards. Not with the prefix, though. The prefix adds 10 to that, and so then numerologically it would be a 5. So I turn everything into numerology, but I was born on the 13th, and I was ill for 13 years, and 1957 I was born, and that reduces to 13. So there's a lot of 13s in my life, even backwards, apparently. But I was doing it in my head, and I'm thinking, oh my God, what does it reduce to? I got my phone out and did it, and sure enough, I mean, 13 reduces to 4, and my phone number reduces to 4. So I don't know. However you get there, 3 and 1 is in there. So I thought that was pretty interesting. My husband's just shaking his head. He's like, of course. So anyhow, let's get started. Well, let's see if I can actually do this today. I cut my thumb, and it's in varying stages of healing, but it hurts. And so I'm trying to do this and push it off with my thumb, and it's just hard. It hurts to do it. So I'm struggling counting 13 cards. 1, 2, 3. I have to do it very slowly. I was chopping up garlic for drying, and it turned out really well. It's at the end of the season, and it's either we got to either do that, or I got to throw it out. It's going to ultimately just start to get rubbery. And so this time of year, we always go through everything. We cut up the red onions, and well, my husband did, because of his thumb. I couldn't help. I couldn't have the onion juice going into my wound, and so that would have been awful. So that's what we were doing. We were cutting up garlic, and I of course cut myself because that's just a given. It's what I do. Anyhow, this is the Four of Swords. No, he's not dead. He's resting. Swords is the air element, and so that deals with our intellect. And basically, what this is doing is he's just sort of lying down and he's letting his thoughts settle. You see the stained glass window up there. He's basically a looks like he's a knight, really, not fully clothed in his knightly attire, but he's just basically letting his thoughts settle. Fours are like that. They're about structure, they're about foundation. But in this case, sometimes our thoughts get scattered and we just need to let them settle. So let's draw another card and see what else we have to say here today about this. 13. I have to do a healing spell on my thumb. Well, we have the Hierophant. Now, we've been drawing him lately. It's the fifth card of the major arcana, so change, but we see triplicity throughout this. We also see duality. So in a sense, he's holding two fingers up, and then in his scepter there, he's got three, well, I don't know what you call them, but anyway, there's three lines at the top of them. So there you've got 5. If you look at him and the 2 adepts below him, or the 2 monks below him, there's 3, and you got the 2 pillars, that's 5. 5 also represents the pentagram, so air, fire, water, and air, fire, earth, air, fire, earth, water, spirit. There we go. Wow. Maybe a little too much sunshine, I don't know. Anyhow. But here you're looking at knowledge, tradition, and structure. You see the 3 crosses on his that white strip of cloth that hangs down there. Again, I don't know what that is. Someone can put it in the comments if you know. I'll jot it down in my little tarot grimoire so I'll know. You've got the keys of knowledge down there, the crossed keys. But the Hierophant's about the enlightened teacher, and so basically, or divine wisdom. So maybe what we're trying to do when we're letting our thoughts settle is we're trying to come to some kind of understanding, maybe a greater understanding of something. Let's take a look in the little grimoire, though, and see if there's anything else I'm not remembering. But basically, you're talking, divine awareness, divine knowledge. It's also about... it's a very patriarchal card, which bothers me always. But basically, if you eliminate the idea that it's a male figure and you just think about it in terms of higher self knowledge, then it's actually more. You lose the polarity of it, which makes it a lot easier for me to cope with, basically. But you're talking about transmitting hidden knowledge. And so where would the hidden knowledge be coming from if you're letting your thoughts settle? You're basically trying to go within and have spirit inform whatever's going on. If maybe something is very self-oriented right now, you need to be able, maybe this is suggesting to you, if your focus is too narrow, to maybe get to step back and get a bigger focus, a greater focus on the whole thing. Maybe you've lost perspective on something and you need to have something that it's like when you go and you talk to a trusted friend or advisor, and or maybe you go see your mom or your dad or your grandmother or something, and you say, listen, I've been going through this and I feel like maybe I need to bounce something off of you and see what you think. And then all of a sudden, this person will come back with something so profound, yet so simple, and you just couldn't see it because maybe you were overcomplicating it. In a sense, that's kind of what he's doing here. maybe overcomplicating something the way he's thinking. So he's just going to take some time out and maybe go within and get quiet and see what higher self has to say. So whether it's that, whether it's you're going inward and allowing that to happen, or maybe you're finding someone who's trusted that you whose opinion you actually, you want to know what they think about it, because they always come up with something, interesting to maybe give you some pause, and it's like to send you in a better direction. So anyhow, so let's see what the third card has to say, though. Well, this evidently has to do with wealth or financial security, or, I mean, in this case, it's harvest. But, he's sitting here. It's the Seven of Pentacles. So we have 4, 5, 7. And he's basically just sitting there taking stock of what he has, kind of in the same mode that the Four of Swords is doing for us. So here we have 9. So that'd be what, 16? And so overall, the numerology would be 7 again. So balance. So it's almost like we're bringing ourselves to balance. And maybe we need to have higher self-influence. Maybe we need to have a greater, more unity conscious perspective, one that I mean, we've talked a lot about the whole notion of service to self and service to others. So perhaps the Hierophant is basically telling us, hey, think about somebody other than yourself. Think about the greater picture. So maybe what we're thinking about has to do with, the mundane aspects of life, our finances, our security, our home. In this case, he's probably thinking about what, this his harvest is going to bring him wealth-wise, maybe contemplating what he's going to do with it. But there's clearly a sense of balance here, because you've got the 2 pillars in the Hierophant. You've got an overall numerology of 7, which is also balanced between shadow side and spirit. Maybe we've gotten our focus a little bit too aligned towards self, maybe. And because when you're looking at the harvest here, the harvest indicates something for others as well, not just for the self. And with the Hierophant, you're talking about, the enlightened teacher. So something enlightened within. Let's take a rune, though, and see what it has to say. Yeah, I mean, whatever is going on today, we're taking a time out and we're having to think about it. Likely having to do with our finances or our foundation, maybe employment, anything to do with that. So if you've got anything going on like that today, take a step back. Oh, well, Tiwaz, the warrior within, that's the 17th rune of the Elder Futhark. So you're talking an 8 energy there, leadership, harmony, the greater aspect of self. So again, it's not just, the warrior within having to do with your own needs. It's really about other people. In a sense, the Hierophant is kind of a message from spirit. It's about inner balance. Now, again, but it's also about the triplicity in life: knowledge, tradition, and structure, mind, body, spirit. All of that, excuse me, all of that has to be in alignment. If the spiritual warrior within is going to be able to manifest whatever you need to be manifesting. There it is. Looking for my rune grimoire. Oh, I turned right to it. Yeah, I mean, Tiwaz represents the god Tyr, justice and sacrifice. This is a lot about sacrifice too, isn't it? When you get that level of abundance. But this is about higher ideals. Might for right, the upholder of faith. Again, aligning well with the Hierophant. So self-discipline, maybe, what must be. But what this governs is conflict and confrontation a lot of the time too. But I don't really get the sense that that's really in play here. I'm thinking too, with the Seven of Pentacles, this really is about other people. This is about maybe trying to find that grace within to protect and to not harm, to use your authority wisely. Because if this is a knight, then he's going to have a little bit of authority too, isn't he, in the Four of Swords? And of course, when you look at swords, you also think justice, don't you? So a fair and just distribution of wealth, maybe, having to come to terms with that and seeing the benefit of that, of being benevolent, perhaps. Because the entrance of Tiwaz into the whole equation, Tiwaz does not represent the Hierophant, okay? It just doesn't. Tiwaz is more likely this guy and this guy. See, because there's wisdom involved. This guy, I would imagine that this is the same guy. He's just in different modes, basically. And so he's contemplating in the seven. It's almost like he's contemplating what he's going to do with that. Is it just for him or is it shared abundance? We had that theme yesterday of shared abundance. Didn't we? Wasn't that what it was yesterday? Oh, yeah. Six of Cups. Right. I've been writing them down, and it's kind of getting interesting, to see how the progression goes. In fact, let's take a look at that since this is Thursday. Let's take a look at what we had for the week. So Monday we had the Three of Wands, the Hierophant. That's when we had the Hierophant. The Six of Pentacles and Birkenau. So how we were going to manifest, that was that. With the Three of Wands, that's how are we going to manifest abundance? On Tuesday was the Seven of Cups, the Star, and the King, the King of Pentacles, and that was the one where we drew 4 cards, and Rado. So, and that was an 8-day. So again, that was continuing on with the manifestation theme, only the king and queen. I think at that point, it's either we're having 2 people in authority going to help decide that, and the queen is actually going to come out on top here of how we're going to manifest all of that, what that journey is going to look like, what that reciprocity. But the other part is that it was also within. Maybe we were battling that within. Authority versus, compassion. Self, service to self versus service to others. And then yesterday was the Knight of Cups, the Two of Wands, and the Six of Cups. And Isa. So again, decisions based on inner knowing. And it just seems like we're carrying forward that theme today with the Four of Swords, aren't we? And I just keep coming back to this whole idea of shared abundance. And maybe that's something that people struggle with, being able to extend that to other people. There seems to be a theme, a running theme of us versus them, at least in this country, where some people have a hard, I mean, you see it with people who don't like the idea of a social safety net until, of course, they lose their job and need unemployment, or they get older and they need Medicare and their Social Security that they've been paying into all this time, right? And then all of a sudden, oh, they're willing to take that. Oh, but you shouldn't have food stamps, or you shouldn't have welfare, or you shouldn't have assistance, or you shouldn't have SSI, or you shouldn't have this. There's a social safety net that needs to exist in a country. Not everyone lives at the same level. Some people live in abject poverty. And so you have to have that in any given setting where those less fortunate need to have a leg up so they're at least healthy. And we don't even do that really all that well in this country. And you've got one party that decides that that's just not okay, and we want to take all of it away. Their Secretary of Education has decided the thing to do is to defund Special Olympics. We put kids in cages. I don't know. Maybe he's contemplating what to do with this. Maybe he needs to have spirit inform that process. Maybe he's conflicted. Maybe someone out there listening is feeling conflicted about the whole idea of shared abundance. But I guarantee you, if you sit and you look at the fact that we pay taxes, however we do that, however we do that, all that money goes for certain things. It goes for the fire department, the police department, the military, the road crews. We live in shared abundance. So no matter what anybody thinks about it, whether you're conflicted or not, understand that when you get in your car and you drive on a road, that's an expression of shared abundance. You can't get away from it. So there's no point in struggling against it. How about we just make it better? Instead of taking the money for bad stuff, how about, that oppresses people and wars and all the black budget projects and everything we know nothing about? How about we take some of that money and we elevate society with it? I don't understand why we can't do that, but that's just me. Anyhow, I don't have that struggle within, but there are people who do. So, maybe that's what this is about here today, to understand that the truth of all of us is that we're one energy, one collective unified consciousness. There's no reason why we can't manifest that truth here in terms of shared abundance, in terms of having healthcare for people. Now they want to take away the Affordable Care Act. They want to strip that law of everything, basically removing it completely. And now we're going to go back to people not having, their health taken care of. I don't understand that. We settled this. The country doesn't want this to happen, but yet that's what they want to do anyway. So anyhow, I guess, sometimes you got to ask yourself, when people do such stupid things like this, when they are so cruel, are they doing it because they know they can get away with it, or because they really don't want to be where they are and they're trying to get thrown out? I often wonder that, is he trying to get thrown out all while he's flailing his arms about saying, oh, no, 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 collusion. Please. Of course you colluded. Of course you did. It's obvious. It's all there, And if you didn't, well, how stupid were you to get caught up in it? Geez. See, I just don't think so. I think it was wink, wink, nod, nod, but that's just my opinion, which I can have. Anyhow, so I really think today's reading, though, is about the struggle within to decide how we're going to give to others, maybe. And I've just recommended, starting out small with little random acts of kindness. Just go to the grocery store and let someone go ahead of you. See the reaction, see how you feel, and then build on it. Start small, Speak to somebody that you might not otherwise speak to. Say hello. How are you today? My husband, I don't do this because of the RA. If I do too much motion, I waved at people one day and my elbow swelled. So I don't know. I let my husband do it. He waves at everybody when we walk. And most people wave, you know. Some people don't. But then at the store, and it doesn't matter which one we're at, we'll get people come up to us and they get this look at, and so you know what they're going to say. They're like, "Are you the people who walk?" I love the ones who are going, "Hey, I'm walking because of you." So he just does it just to be friendly. He also does it to wake people up. You get in a mode when you drive, you know, you're on autopilot. Maybe you don't see people walking. So part of it is to protect us. He waves to get people out of their, you know, their focus, you know, as they see us. So, but at the same time, to have people come up to you and say, "Oh my gosh, are you those people?" So we sit and we visit, you know. I have no idea who these people are, but it's so wonderful to just sit and talk with somebody. And even if it's somebody you don't know, but you share that little moment in time together, and it's just really kind of special. So I don't know. I'm just kind of in that mode, and I know that it's hard for some people to feel that within them. Just know that it's something that you're struggling against, and it's really not your truth. That your truth is really in unity consciousness with all, and that whole shared experience with all. So in any event, if you need to take a little moment today to remind yourself of that, to just sort of sit quietly and go within and think about all the things you have to be grateful for. I guarantee you, even if you don't think about anything else, just think about all the things you have to be grateful for. You'll come out of that moment feeling so much better. So in any event, and then maybe things will be really clear for you. So anyhow, thank you so much for coming by. Have a wonderful weekend, and do check out the blog. I'd love you to do that, and click subscribe. That'd be so awesome if you came back. I love doing these. This has been so much fun. I started it, I'm not sure when. It was either June or July of last year, I think. Somewhere in the summertime, I started doing it. And I've just been having so much fun doing it. And in any event, thanks so much for stopping by. We'll see you on Monday. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.